Bonjour à tous, pour cette nouvelle vidéo, je suis absolument ravi de vous proposer une interview avec Anna Christie. Anna est une psychothérapeute canadienne qui est spécialisée depuis très longtemps dans le traitement de l'hémétophobie. Dans cette interview, vous pourrez entendre son témoignage personnel et c'est vraiment très touchant en tant qu'ancienne hémétophobe. Mais on y parle également de plein d'autres choses comme les causes possibles de l'hémétophobie, les traitements, le meilleur traitement de l'hémétophobie. Vous aurez également accès à des ressources. Donc vraiment, regardez bien cette interview jusqu'à la fin, c'est passionnant. L'interview a eu lieu en anglais, mais soyez rassurés, si vous êtes francophone, ce qui est probablement le cas, tout est sous-titré. Et si jamais vous êtes anglophone, je suis vraiment désolé, vous allez devoir supporter mon accent. On fait du mieux qu'on peut. Je vous laisse découvrir cette interview avec Anna, c'est absolument passionnant. Hi everybody, I'm very glad today to welcome Anna Christie. Anna, thank you so much to have accepted this video with me. We're gonna talk about emetophobia. You are a psychotherapist. I think you are in Vancouver,
Yes.
in Canada, and you are a super specialist with emetophobia. And also, what is very interesting, is that you were a sufferer yourself. You suffer for many years of emetophobia. And I wonder if you would if you would agree to say a few words of your experience with this phobia and with the treatment, because I think you are fully recovered today, and I think it's very interesting for everybody suffering from emetophobia.
Thank you. Yes, it's really great to be here. I'm always happy to do anything that helps anyone with emetophobia. Um, I suffered from it for as long as I can remember, so I cannot remember a time when I did not have it. I had some early trauma in my life. My brother died when I not quite 4 years old, and it could have started there because he was very sick in the hospital. After an accident. He had an accident and he died. But so it could have started there, and it got worse over the years. My father died when I was 9 of cancer, and he vomited a lot, and it was very scary. And then he died. So, that's not so good. A lot of people I work with, though, they don't have any stories like that at all. They don't know why they have it or when it started or how. So it doesn't matter though, because the treatment is the same. I was born in 1958. So you can imagine that there was no internet really until about 2000 when I was 42 years old. So before that, I tried and tried all kinds of different ways to get help and get better. Luckily, in Vancouver, a psychologist did a study with 10 participants using exposure and response prevention. And she did it in 1983. And so I went through that. And through that, I really did learn to be less afraid of vomiting myself. But interestingly, I was worse when it came to other people vomiting. So I was even more afraid of that after 1983. And it wasn't until around 2001 or two, through that time that I designed my own program of exposures with the help of the internet. There still was no YouTube. There was no Google Images. So I relied on some people to help in the international community. There was a forum, and some people internationally uploaded some pictures and kind of helped. I rented movies where people were vomiting and watched them with my therapist or at home by myself. And then I volunteered in a hospital for 14 days straight. I was trained as a hospital chaplain. I'm not sure how how familiar your viewers might be with chaplains, but they are usually religious people who work in hospitals and they help with spiritual care. So you can walk into anything You have no idea when you walk in a room what
Mm,
someone's going to be vomiting, bleeding, dying, and you don't know.
mm,
So that was when I think I got over it once and for all. And then I really loved the work. And so I volunteered 1 day a week in the hospital from that time forward for several years, because I really loved it when I wasn't afraid anymore, and that's around the time. I think I put my first website up around 2005. There was nothing on the internet 20 years ago, really. Um, and since then, I've kept a website. Like, it's now at emetophobia.net, where there are lots of resources. I have an information website at emetophobiahelp.org, and there's all kinds of information there for people. I've had that website up for a long time too. So anyway, that's not very brief, but that's my story.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Anna, you said in your own history there is an history of trauma, very early trauma, and I wonder if emetophobia. I think in the mind of many therapists, it's the cause is trauma, and I wonder if it's true or not.
Yeah, not true.
Not
Um,
true.
can be true. It definitely can be true. And as you know, I'm sure, trauma can cause all sorts of things. It can have all different effect. I could have been a drug addict. I could have been depressed. Anything could have happened to me as a result of my trauma. Um, Other people have trauma and they get emetophobia. Sometimes there's an incident about vomiting and they end up with emetophobia. But most of the time, I would say people have, I think there are contributing factors, almost like a perfect storm, where the wind blows from here and here and here, and then it's really terrible. So there, I think at least 50% is that we're born with a predisposition to having anxiety or an anxiety disorder. It's a genetic predisposition. We may have a family system that is very anxious, or very stressed, I think would be easier for people to remember or to understand. Um, that's usually part of the contributing factors. Stressed family system. Something happens usually with the attachment between a child and that child's mother or primary caregiver. It could be something as simple as mom went back to work. So it doesn't have to be horrible.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that your mother locked you up in a cage or something, in the basement. It could be that your parents got divorced. It could be that you moved from one part of the country or to another country. It's some disruption and stress on the family. And why it chooses vomiting in our brains, I don't know. We have not enough research to know the answers to this. So, again, it doesn't matter how you get it. You don't need to spend time for the, in order to recover, you don't need to spend time figuring that out because the treatment is the same regardless of how you got it. Yeah.
So that means it's very interesting. That means that even if we find a trauma in the history of the sufferer, if you process the trauma, it doesn't necessarily make the emetophobia
No,
disappear.
it does not. Yeah, and I certainly found that out. I think I had about 300 hours of individual therapy
Yeah.
personally,
Oh,
because I think that's very important for us as therapists. I'm very committed to that. I think that it didn't even touch the emetophobia. I had EMDR, like everything, and it helped me greatly. It really helped me. Original grief work, inner child, all of that. Very good, very helpful. Doesn't touch the phobia.
Mhm.
Um, that is just a part of the brain that has remembered that this is dangerous, which it's not, but this part of your brain believes it's dangerous to vomit. It could kill you to vomit, is what it believes. And it can't let go of that without experiencing at least a trigger. You don't have to vomit to get over it. In fact, you shouldn't. That doesn't help anybody. But you have to kind of experience something that raises your anxiety and then learn to leave that anxiety alone. And I can get into that later, but
Yeah, yeah.
Si vous appréciez cette interview, s'il vous plaît, c'est très important. Pensez à vous abonner, à mettre un petit like, un commentaire, ça serait formidable. Merci beaucoup par avance. C'est extrêmement important, vous le savez sur YouTube. Les abonnements, ça, les commentaires, les likes, tout ça, ça augmente le référencement des vidéos et ça permet de donner de la visibilité à la chaîne. Donc merci beaucoup par avance pour faire ça.
Thank you so much for these answers. I tend to consider emetophobia to be the worst phobia. Well, the ones I meet in my clinical practice. And I wonder if you think that, but emetophobia is the worst phobia, or maybe one of the worst.
Yeah, I think there are some others that would tie for first place. You know, if health, illness, anxiety,
Yeah,
is if it's bad enough, it's really terrible because it's like you can at least be in the presence of, say, another person vomiting like I was when I worked in a hospital. But you can't, if you're afraid you've got cancer every time, yeah, that's really hard to treat, I think. There are some other phobias that people are so ashamed of. There are people afraid of defecating and they do everything to stop it. They take, like Imodium,
yeah.
Kaopectate, whatever, and they don't eat. They do all these things, but obviously you do have to defecate at some point, and it doesn't fix them. Just like that's how I knew when I saw these people online. I thought, oh, that's why vomiting doesn't work to overcome the phobia. Because even if you do it, it's not your problem isn't vomiting, it's the anxiety, right? So, yeah, but it's bad. It is bad. Don't get me wrong. It's one of, yeah. I mean, if you're afraid of clowns or dogs, we can get you to sit down with a clown or pet a dog in 2 hours, but not this.
Yeah, the threat is everywhere in emetophobia, and that's why it's so bad. And you talk about health anxiety, and actually, this is another form of anxiety which I think has similar features than emetophobia, similarities with OCD.
Yes.
And
In fact, again, we haven't done enough research, but I give a survey to everyone who comes into my clinic, over 400 people now. It's called Y-BOCS, Y-BOCS, and it's just an obsessive compulsive inventory or survey or something. Anyway, every single one of the 400 plus people have scored in the clinical level as a diagnosis of OCD. So either they are completely comorbid, like they always occur together, or they're the same thing. And emetophobia is a type of OCD. There was one study done by David Veal and Associates that concluded that they thought, oh, it must be a type of OCD. But now David Veal has, in his latest book on emetophobia, he says, no, I don't think that anymore. Anyway, but he thinks it sort of goes on a continuum, but I don't know. Yeah, it's very closely related. And I tell my clients, don't think that you have two things wrong with you if you are diagnosed OCD and emetophobia, because that makes people feel like, oh, I'm so terrible. I have two things, but that's not true. You really only have one thing, and it's emetophobia with obsessive and compulsive tendencies.
Yeah. This is the same process of intolerance of uncertainty in both conditions. Yeah,
it sure is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how does one recover from emetophobia? Is it possible to recover from it?
Yeah, it certainly is possible, and people, hundreds of people, maybe thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know how many recover. It is the only evidence-based technique for overcoming emetophobia is cognitive behavioral therapy with exposure and response prevention, or ERP. So that would be CBT plus ERP. Some therapists do CBT and they only do the cognitive work. They don't do the exposure work, and that doesn't help in the long run. You must have the exposure. Again, exposure doesn't mean you vomit. It means you just get exposed little by little, very gradually, to anything that raises your anxiety a little bit, and and then you learn how to tolerate that amount of anxiety, and eventually that thing doesn't cause that anxiety anymore. But it takes a long time to recover. There is no quick fix. There are people on the internet taking advantage of people with emetophobia. They say, oh, 6 or 8, I don't know, sessions, lessons, and you'll be completely over it. That's just not true. It's not possible. But it's something you may have to work at for a year, 2 years, and work hard. Yeah.
So the treatment is ERP, as you said, exposure and response prevention. Same treatment as OCD, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
And if I find an ERP therapist, will I be asked to vomit on purpose? Because it's something we hear sometimes by people.
Yeah, you might be. And then you need to let that therapist know that they don't know what they're talking about. That won't go over very well. But you recommend our book to that therapist, because yes, that book. Yeah, read this book. I love you. Please read this book and then reconsider whether I have to vomit on purpose. It will not help you recover from emetophobia. It may re-traumatize you. And so I would not agree to it if I would not advise people to agree to that, because it really can re-traumatize you. It's not enough just to have an exposure to something and experience it. That doesn't do anything. That would be like, oh, you're afraid of dogs. You need to go out and a pack of dogs need to attack you. And then what's that going to do? Nothing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you for this clarification. A question for parents. If I suffer from emetophobia and I have children, what can I do? Because I spend my whole day ruminating about what if my child is going to be sick. What can I do?
Well, what can anyone do, really? I mean, I think that people with emetophobia for the most part, are so brave. They're so courageous. Women get pregnant even though they may have morning sickness. They don't know. They might get morning sickness. So many of them get morning sick or could get morning sickness. And they have children, and children vomit and they bring home germs. And I just think people are so courageous, but parents with emetophobia do suffer quite a bit because of the amount of triggering they get from their kids. So what anyone can do is to start your recovery. Yeah. I mean, really, find there are good books now, not necessarily the one that we showed that is more for people treating emetophobia, but there are 2 or 3 books on the market, self-help. I've got a self-help book coming out on February 20th, I think,
Great.
and so no matter how much money or lack of money you have, there's a way to help if you work hard and get better. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think there is. I don't think there exists a book written in French, a self-help. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate, but
Yes. There's a
well,
very good book in Italian. Yes, I interviewed a psychiatrist from Italy. We had to work through a translator. She had almost no English at all. I studied Italian in university. I had almost no Italian, but I managed to do the introduction in Italian. I thought that was cool. Anyway, she wrote a really great book. It has been translated to English, but it's in Italian. But yes, we need something in French. We need something in Mandarin badly.
yeah,
Yeah. And Arabic. I mean, there are people all over the world contact me that,
yeah. I guess. I guess.
yeah. Mhm.
Uh, Thank you so much, Anna, for all this information. I wonder if you have anything else you would like to say, any advices you would like to
Mhm.
give to people suffering from emetophobia?
Yeah, I would just want to give them hope. There is hope. You don't have to be miserable your whole life. It takes up every minute of your waking day. You're often not able to sleep. You often cannot eat properly, and you're scared almost all the time. Some people can't work. It affects their
Yeah,
relationships. It is so all pervasive, and you can recover from it. Is it fair? No, that you have to put in so much work and maybe even some of your money, because even in Canada, we don't get mental health benefits with our insurance from the government. But there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm willing to help anybody I can. I'm trying to put together something before I retire at every price point to be able to help somebody. And so I've got this book coming out. It'll only be around $25. That's the cheapest thing. And then I'm going to try to put some webinars together that are pre-recorded,
great.
that will be cheaper than my classes, which are cheaper than individual therapy. So, yeah, but there are people, it's getting more known all over the world. There are people like yourself who are very familiar and can really help. So don't despair, don't give up hope. You can get out of this. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you finish on this point. I really recommend to the English speaking people, to therapists, to read your book.
Hmm.
You wrote with David Russ, Dr.
Yes.
David Russ. I really recommend
Yeah.
your podcast, Emetophobia, with Anna Christie, and
Yeah.
also a very great resource is your website,
Yes.
because for
Yeah.
therapists there is the exposure hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yes. And all free. You
All
don't have to
free.
put your email in. There's no ads. It's just free for the taking. My new book is called Conquer Your Emetophobia. It's available on Amazon for pre-order already. So,
Great.
yeah.
Great. Congratulations to publish your, I think it's your second book, huh?
Yes, it's self-help, but it's also memoir. So it's partly my story and as of my life as well as self-help exercises. And yeah.
Great, great. Anna, thank you so much
Thank you.
to have accepted this interview. And I'm gonna put all the resources, your website, your books, everywhere under the video, the links under the video. And
Okay, great.
thank you so much once again.
You're welcome.